Do you want to know what happens to your Bank of America money when you die? Then you're in the right place. Since I've been in my 50s, I've paid a lot more attention to estate planning issues. I plan on living for many more years, but I'm also a realist. We will all one day die. We can either try to take control of how we die, or we can leave it up to others. I've also seen and heard about other people about how they dealt with money issues after someone dies. And I can tell you, it isn't a pretty sight, nor is it a pretty story when there is no plan in place. The people left behind are left with stress, confusion, and general chaos. That chaos causes a lot of infighting and unnecessary friction. And this is why the issue of estate planning is important to me and why it might also be important to you. So this is a general rule. Whether you know it or not, everyone has an estate plan. For most people, you have one of two estate plans. You have an estate plan in which you created and had an active role in, or you're going to let the state you live in decide how they disperse your money and assets. Either way, everyone has an estate plan. It's all your choice. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that I'm going to preach about having a will. But believe it or not, I'm not going to talk about the will, except that I think it's a good idea and that this video is not the time and place to discuss wills. However, I am going to discuss something way more simpler as it relates to your Bank of America money. And that simple idea is having a POD form. A POD form stands for Payable-on-Death form. It's available to customers at most financial institutions. However, most people don't know about it until they ask about it. Normally, I would give a short explanation of how POD forms work and the concept of beneficiaries. But in the case of Bank of America, they have conveniently created a web page which covers a lot of what I'm going to discuss. So what I'm going to do is pull up the Bank of America beneficiaries page and review it with you. This Bank of America FAQ page is dedicated to the topic of beneficiaries and PODs. This page is available to anyone on the internet. You don't have to have a Bank of America account to read this page. So starting out, when you get to the Bank of America page, you're going to have a list of questions. However, if you click your mouse on the arrowheads, you will see that the questions will expand into answers of the individual questions. The first question is, what is a payable-on-death beneficiary? A POD beneficiary is an individual, group of individuals, nonprofit, company, organization, or trust other than the owner or co-owner designated by the owners of the account to receive the balance of funds when the last owner on the account passes away. Essentially, a POD beneficiary is someone that you would appoint to get your money after you die. I say that in the context that you're the only owner of that bank account. However, it is entirely possible that you can share an account with someone else. In the event that you die, the remaining owner of that account would assume control of your money. The next question shown here is, who can be a POD beneficiary? For most of us, a POD beneficiary is going to be someone we know. It's going to be a spouse, significant other, a family member, a relative, or even a friend. The next question is, what information do I need to add a POD beneficiary? What Bank of America wants is a first and last name, a date of birth, the country of citizenship, a social security number, and a complete address. The information that Bank of America is asking for is common to the other financial institutions that I've seen. The next question is, can I have multiple beneficiaries? And the answer is yes. There is no limit to the number of POD beneficiaries allowed on an account. Each POD will receive an equal share of the assets in an account at the time of the passing of the last owner on the account. Bank of America provides the example is that if you list 4 POD beneficiaries, each individual will receive 25% of the funds. The next question Bank of America lists here is, what accounts can have POD beneficiaries? And the answer is that it's going to apply to almost any account that you would normally have at a bank. It would include a checking, savings, CD account, IRA account, and an investment account. And the last question listed here is, how do I change my POD beneficiaries or add a new one? How I'm going to answer this is that I'm going to actually show you the screenshots of how to do this later on in this video. So as a quick review, a POD beneficiary is pretty much anyone you would want to appoint to receive your money after you die. So whether you have a checking account, savings account, investment account, or retirement account, you assign beneficiaries to each and every account. Now I'm going to do a quick sidebar on apportionments. An apportionment is the dividing up of the monies in an account. Bank of America states that by default, they're just going to equally divide whatever money that is left into the account and disperse it to the beneficiaries. However, you should know that many financial institutions do allow for customized apportionments. For example, you may want to apportion 50% of the money in that account to one person, then you may want to apportion 30% of the money in that account to a second person, and then apportion 20% of the money in that account to a third person. When you add up the 50%, 30%, and 20%, it totals 100%. And they are unequal shares. In the case of Bank of America going through their online form, you're not going to be able to do customized apportionments. And that's something you should be aware of. And this is a second sidebar. Keep in mind, I'm not an estate lawyer. I'm only bringing this up so that you can look into the matter further. In the case of a spouse and you live in a community property state, it may not be possible for you to leave out monies for your spouse. They may be automatically entitled to 50% of the monies of that account, even if you leave their names off. Now, there doesn't have to be anything nefarious about this. Different people think about their monies and their accounts in different ways. A person may want to assign one account where all the monies go to the spouse, and they may have yet another account where they would want all the money to go to the children. And because of this simple example, if you do plan on leaving out a spouse and you live in a community property state, this is an issue you may want to check into. For any other situations without a spouse, your chosen or default apportionments should stand. But let's get back to Bank of America and how they deal with PODs and beneficiaries. I have to say, I really like how Bank of America handles PODs and beneficiaries. And the reason why I like it so much is that you don't have to deal with a paper form. With Bank of America, and if you have online banking, you can do it all from the comfort of your home, and you don't have to deal with scanning and signing a form. More recently, with BB&T, now converted to Truist Bank, I had to go into a branch and wait for someone to change my form. It was not a fun process, and it was a time-consuming process. They wanted me to physically come in and check my ID before I could do anything. Now, I understand why BB&T and Truist Bank wanted me to come in, but I have to tell you, I really much prefer Bank of America's online system. So what I'm going to do now is do a quick run through the Bank of America online system on how to set up a POD and assign beneficiaries. The first thing we're going to assume is that you're a Bank of America customer and you have online banking activated. First, we're going to go to the home page, and on the left side, you will see where you have to type in your online ID and password in order to sign in. Once you sign in, you will see a list of accounts that you have with Bank of America. To preserve the privacy of the account holder, I redacted a lot of information on this screen. So in this example, with this list of accounts, I click on the first checking account, but I could just as well have clicked any other account. You're going to see that it's very familiar regardless of which account you click on. Once you click into the account screen, what you're looking for is the Information and Services tab. Once you click into the Information and Services tab, you're going to scroll down into the Account Features section. Under Account Features, you should see a listing for beneficiaries. You click Manage to go into the next screen. Once you click the Manage link, it should take you to your beneficiaries screen. You should see a list of accounts in which you can add a beneficiary, update a beneficiary, or remove a beneficiary. The nice thing about this is that you don't have to deal with paper forms. You can do it right there from the convenience of your home. So what I'm going to do now is assume that you have your list of Bank of America accounts, but you have not added a beneficiary. So once you click on Add a Beneficiary, this is a screen you're going to see. For most people, you're going to assign a beneficiary to an individual. It's pretty straightforward if you look at the screen. You'll see the first name, middle name, which is optional, last name. You put in the date of birth. There's a button to add a street address. You select the country of citizenship, and you put in the social security number. Before you save the beneficiary information to that particular account, you should read the notice. Please make a note or print what you've entered about each beneficiary for your records. In order to protect this sensitive information, we will only display your beneficiaries' names when you review or make updates. Your POD beneficiary must be complete and accurate to be legally binding. By clicking Save, I authorize for myself and other account holders that this information is correct and that I agree to the beneficiary addendum notice. Now, most people will probably save the information without reading the beneficiary addendum notice. But in the interest of being complete, I am displaying the beneficiary addendum notice. It's actually a pretty short read. It says that I acknowledge and understand that by establishing a POD account under the provisions of the applicable state law, number 1, during my lifetime, I may withdraw the money in the account. Number 2, I may change the beneficiaries at any time. And number 3, upon my death, the money remaining in the account will belong to the then surviving beneficiaries in equal shares and will not be inherited by my heirs or controlled by my will. I think this beneficiary addendum notice is very good because it reinforces the fact that you can control what happens to the money after your death without the need for a will. In fact, the statement says that the POD will override any will that you might have. Now, one thing I like about PODs is that you can change your mind at any time. And when you do change your mind, it doesn't cost you money. Unlike a will, if you have to make changes to a will, it's a little bit more complicated. But changing a beneficiary, adding a beneficiary, or removing a beneficiary can be done very easily, especially if you're with Bank of America. So when you enter the Update Your Beneficiary screen, you will see it's nearly identical to the Add Beneficiary screen. The statement of what you agreed to when you added a beneficiary is still applicable when you change the beneficiary. It's the same exact verbiage with the same beneficiary addendum notice. So what do you think about PODs, beneficiaries, and Bank of America? I'd like to know what you think. Leave a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you will receive notifications when I upload new videos. In the meantime, check out this next video that I've recommended for you, and I will see you in my next video.